Welcome, everyone. Excited to be here with Sugarcane Jane. They're going to chat with us about some of their new music, about their journey to conservatism and to supporting President Donald Trump. They have a new album that's out. You can buy it on their website, sugarcanejane.com, Ruffled Feathers, and you can go check it out there on their website. You can get it wherever records are sold. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh,
thanks, Emily.
It's an honor to be here.
Well, we really appreciate it. You guys have a very interesting story to tell, and I want to dive into that a little bit. If you could talk both about your personal and professional backgrounds, and then what led you to each other and to the band.
Well, you want to go ahead and start?
Your story is way more interesting.
Well, let me just say this. Not necessarily. My story got better when I met Savana, and that's the truth. But I started out as a sideman for people, playing music for people like Neil Young, who is, not very supportive of Donald Trump, but I understand and we're tolerant of that, but I met Donald Trump backstage at Madison Square Gardens when we were playing a Neil Young concert, and I was walking to the stage and he was sitting there with Eric and Don Jr., and I did a double take and I said, "Don, baby," and I shook his hand, and I had to keep going because I was needing to be on stage, and he just goes, "Kid, you're going places." And I will never forget that, because it was such a moment for me, because I shook his hand and I felt, if you shook the hand of somebody who is as evil as people want to make him out to be, you'd know it. I felt something good, and I'm just being honest with it. But I back to your question or whatever. I started out playing music for other people, and Savana and I met in Nashville years ago. We've been together as a couple for 11 years, playing Sugarcane Jane music, raising a family. We're just your, average, American family, and we love America. We don't see it being as broken as we all just found out since March 15th, that it is so broken. We're just like, we're like pummeled with this every day, and we just don't believe a lot of what we're hearing. So that's why we are speaking out about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Savana, you guys met in Nashville. Were you there working on music as well?
I did move up to Nashville for music, and I kind of got sidetracked into owning or co-owning a recording studio there, analog studio, and that's actually where I met Anthony. So he came in to record, and we met back in 2000. So we've known each other for quite some time. Fell in love with his music. When I first heard it, it was so different from everything else coming out of Nashville. And then, of course, his good looks and charm just really quickly took over. And yeah.
What's not to love?
I know, right?
Well, when it comes to Anthony, I'm sure what intrigues a lot of people is your association with Neil Young, of course. But there's also, you've worked with so many people. You've worked with Steve Winwood. I think Neil Young's producer reached out to you after hearing you on a Tanya Tucker track.
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, you describe yourself as Forrest Gump a little bit, and I think that's absolutely accurate. I was reading your No Depression interview from a few years back, where you mentioned that you played with Neil and during the years that some would consider his worst years musically, but you've played with him pretty recently as well. When was the last time that you played in his band?
I think it would have to be Jazz Fest was the last show that I played with him in 2009.
Well, you did Farm Aid in 2010, but yeah, as far as a member of his band, just a full band set up, I guess it was.
And when I say 2009, but I want to clarify that his worst years are the best years for a lot of people. Just aside from political things, he's a brilliant person. He's a fantastic writer, artist. His longevity is astounding, and his just being associated with him as a musician before anybody found out I was conservative, it really will buoy somebody's career to be able to hang with a man of that intensity for that long. And some might say, because his name comes up in mentioning my career, and they say Neil Young, whatever, and I have people say, well, you're riding his coattails, and I don't find that to be the case. You know, I think that when you have a history with people like Steve Winwood or Dwight Yoakam, Neil Young, people, that's tagability in the business. You know, the internet is a little funny little beast, but when you can put, honestly, I played with Neil Young, it makes people go, oh, well, let me see what this guy's about, instead of I played with Jim Barrington from West Virginia. They don't care about that, but Neil Young raises an eyebrow, and especially me being a conservative and Neil being, you know, the liberal person that he is. So
I mean, you played how many shows with Neil?
Played a lot of shows. I don't know how many it is, hundreds of shows with him, but now being 63 years old, I am my own man, and I do not look at myself the same way as I did when I was playing music with him. I guess if I was around him right now, I would have to be speaking out, and I'm sure that if I did, I wouldn't be working with him more than likely. But, you know, Savana and I have our own way of making our own living, and we don't have to have that. So I can now speak out and be myself, and I'm excited about that.
Liberating. Feels great.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that reminds me of a quote from the No Depression interview where you said music is freedom. And isn't that an interesting way to talk about music when a lot of artists are such conformists now politically? But to say music is freedom and then to actually use it to express freedom politically, I thought that was poignant.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that, you know, people are telling us, you know, it's not a smart decision to come out in our music politically, that we're alienating all these people. And to them, you know, I just say that to tell an artist what they can and can't write about is just wrong. These songs came out of Anthony in 6 days, okay? It was like they came from another space. God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. He says he basically just was writing it down fluidly, and then we came out here and recorded them. So to deny people that kind of inspiration because of something it says, I just don't agree with that. I'm all about speaking your mind and just being yourself. I think what America needs to be is more tolerant of other people's opinions. And like I was telling him a minute ago, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm an elevated person, but I can somehow separate people's political views from their music, because I enjoy a lot of music from liberal-minded folks like Neil Young, you know, Bruce Springsteen, whoever, you know, so I can separate it, and I would just hope that people would somehow find some tolerance.
Nero movie anymore. Sorry. He's moved to Italy.
Well, yeah, we'll see how that goes for him. But
he promised he's moving to Italy.
I think we have a lot of universal messages in our music. It's not like we're just preaching to people in this album. We have one song that basically says who we're voting for, but I think most of the lyrics in this whole album are things that we can all pretty much agree on. A lot of the people that we're getting some heat from have never listened to the song. So I think it's kind of a little critical of them to judge us in that way.
You know, something that's interesting about both of your backgrounds is you come from an industry that is really dominated by cultural leftism and political leftism. And you spent years kind of in that environment and in that climate. And as you mentioned, you're personally able to separate the art and the artist politically. But also, even when you don't separate it, I'm curious as to how that experience shaped your views now, as you are on this. I mean, you came from that environment, and now here you are writing pro-Trump music, and I would say music with conservative themes, family, God. What from your past do you think led you to where you are now?
Growing up with my parents, they were conservative as well. But, you know, there's a misnomer about living in the South and everybody down here has conservative views. We we are bombarded with people who are dumping on us because we are conservatives. You would not believe I will say, we more from positive people, and especially just when we came out and declared ourselves, we thought for 11 years our ambiguity of who we were personally was something that was very attractive to people, and we understand that, and we grew a pretty nice fan base for just two people, you know. But we decided that this is the most important election of our lifetime. I know the last one was just to get him in, but now especially to keep him in. When you look, the real question should be, how can you, Anthony and Savannah, vote for this man who lies and he this and the other? And then we say, well, ultimately the question could be, why do you think we would consider this person over here who cannot complete a sentence? And honestly, that tells me that I'm making the better choice. I just simply feel in my heart that I am, but nobody can tell me what all the lies are. I was like, give me an opportunity to hate him too. Tell me something that will get me on your hate train, and nobody can do it, because I'm not going to just do it out of peer pressure anymore. I'm simply out of that closet. I am all about knowing what I know when I see it. And so my parents were conservative, but nothing has ever been as polarizing as it is today. People are bonking people on the head with a brick, okay? People are mad, and we know that, and we're taking a huge chance. But we thought, let's use our limited celebrity status as it may be, whoever follows us in whatever small level, but we have to contribute to the cause. And it's not all about just Donald Trump. It's all that he stands for right now. But we do respect what he's doing. But there's a ton of people out there that are afraid to say something because they're going to get fired, or they're scared they're going to get beat on the head. You know, I mean, it's just a very volatile moment.
Were you both always Republicans and conservatives, or was that something that Donald Trump's candidacy and presidency sparked in you?
Always just more conservative. But, you know,
I voted for Perot.
Yeah, I mean, you know, hey, I don't know. I might have voted for Jimmy Carter, but let me tell you this. Let me make sure that this is clear. I have watched every bit of all Democratic things. Always. I'm always open-minded for somebody to come in and say, this is why you need to vote right now. I mean, I watched all of the debates. I watched everything. But the one thing that really closed the door on me as I was watching it, I said, this will come back to haunt them, is the open border thing. But they deny that now. You can talk to everybody. It's like, no, but you did raise your hand, right?
Everybody raised their hand.
Everybody. So in other words, there's a lot of things that if you just, what happened a month ago, 2 months ago, a year, people rushing to off thing, to the impeachment, to the COVID, to the
corn shortage.
It's just corn shortage. It is just one after another, and I don't know who's doing it, and I can't really say who it is, but something's wrong. Okay, something's wrong, and we don't know what it is. But I just feel like we're on the right side of it, as much as people are telling us, too bad for you, we'll never listen to your music again, and it's so sad that you will be on the wrong side of history. And I just don't think so.
I think people need to really question, like, who will be making the decisions for Biden, because, you know, he doesn't seem to be very coherent these days, and he hasn't spoken out or had any interviews. I seriously doubt that he will debate Donald Trump. I hope he does, just so we, as the American people, can hear from his mouth what he plans on doing, you know, because whoever's writing his articles for him, telling us what his policies will be, I'd like to know, who is that? Is that Kamala Harris, who's extreme left, you know? So we're pretty afraid of the radical left taking over this presidency. That's one thing that I'm terrified of.
Well, and Kamala Harris is from California, and she represents Hollywood, and she's close with Hollywood and has close relationships with celebrities and with that industry. And certainly there's a lot of the music industry based in Los Angeles. I'm curious, you guys have kind of seen the music industry up close. And you mentioned in a statement that you provided to me yesterday when we premiered the video for That's What I See, which is the new single off the album. You mentioned that you've seen liberal Hollywood, you've seen the liberal music industry. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what you have seen and maybe your experience coming out openly as Trump supporters, what that's revealed about the industry?
I think it reveals that it is exactly what you say it is. It's very dominated by people who are ultra Trump haters, and I think that there are, however, a few people. Like yesterday, I got a comment from somebody who was really bashing on us because of our stance. And they said, well, you'll probably go play for Ted Nugent or Kid Rock. And I said, that would be awesome if they would ask us to open their show. Thank you. We just know that there are more people who believe like us, but they're scared to say something, because I promise you, there are people in Hollywood who are afraid of being blackballed, like we're being blackballed. But I think that by doing interviews with your show and doing other things, I think we're finding a new audience. And Savana and I always said, before we came out and told people we were conservative, we always knew that we would probably do better if we could find a more conservative base. But the opportunities that we had were usually in more liberal situations, like your festivals and this, that, and the other. I don't know why that is, but
Radio.
I guess.
I mean, we've been, turned down equally from conservative radio promoters as well as liberal radio promoters, because
they're scared to touch it.
They're scared not only to not get any play for us, but then they're scared of what that might do for their other artists that they're promoting. So it's just really messed up, the whole industry. So we're not getting a lot of love from radio right now, but we hope that by being on your show and some of these other things that we're doing, that we'll actually have people speak out for us and support us.
Right. A question that conservatives, as somebody in the conservative media world, that people who aren't necessarily involved in the culture, a question that comes up so often is, why is this industry that is supposedly full of our freest thinkers politically so conformist? Do you guys have an answer to that question? Why is it that musicians, people who should be, writing subversive art, who should be exploring politics with open minds and sharp edges, why is it that we see so much political conformity from them?
Because they're afraid as well. I think that is the most damaging thing that people think is happening to us. It's like, how could you write about this guy that we hate so much and think that you're ever going to work again? I think that everybody has to reinvent themselves nowadays because of this COVID lockdown, just all the things, nothing ever made perfect good sense to me. The numbers kept changing. My heart told me in the beginning, I was as scared as anybody, but as time goes on and you have somebody say, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Okay, do it.
2 million people are
2
going to
million
die.
people are going to die. Okay, now only this much, whatever. Just all of that stuff is confusing. But when you think about writing music, music is an art form. However, I think that a lot of musicians find themselves in better parties at night after the show, because most liberal people, and I am liberal in some ways. I like a beer. I'm not some stoned person that's going to just stand there and go, no, I don't drink. Let me finish my Bible verse. I mean, people they put you in this bag. I mean, you know, if you want to go down the list of what do we have in common and get all of my Democratic friends over here, we have more in common than we don't. The one thing that we don't have in common is Donald Trump. They hate him, and we can't figure out why it is. And so I think that that's why when you look at the question you just gave, is the reason why people don't do what we're doing is because they have to have those people that own these nightclubs or these venues and this, that, and the other. Believe me, Savana and I will probably not work too much after this, except for doing our Facebook live shows, because we are torching our opportunities, but we feel like that our career is no longer the main thing we're thinking about. We have 3 young children, 10, 7, and 4, and we are thinking about their future. So our little career can be adjusted and all of that. But as far as the future of America, I mean, I didn't realize how broken it was and how bad I was until just recently. I didn't realize I was a racist, homophobe, fascist, whatever. We're called that all the time just because we support Donald Trump. We are now these people that we don't even know who we are ourselves if we're to be identified by these people. I mean, I don't understand. I don't see where somebody would think that Savana and I would be a racist, because when I'm 63 and I grew up in the South, and I understand what that means. You know, in reality, that to me would mean something way more than what it means today. It's just a quick punch in the face for somebody to call you racist. But
That's
back
right.
then it would be like, oh, you're a racist. Didn't I see you burning a cross in somebody's yard the other night? Didn't I see you around a lynching the other day? We don't go and do that. We don't do that. So, I mean,
Donald Trump shouldn't be called that
he
either.
shouldn't
He's done
either.
lots of things for the
He's done
minorities
awesome
and
for
all.
them.
So I think that
We
they're
don't
just
get it.
being fed by, biased media out there. I really do. And that goes back to like the song that he wrote, Let the Media Die.
I was going to
And
ask
of
about
course,
that one.
that is, let's clarify what that is, because of course we don't want your show to die, but we do want any kind of news media that is just promoting tragedy to divide the American people, for ratings. Of course, that's not right. We just want the truth like everybody. And we're saying if you turn off of that sometimes and just actually get off of your phone, go and have lunch with somebody and talk to them face to face, as opposed to like typing something on a screen, then you'll probably find that you have a lot more in common that you don't. So.
Yeah, so I'm here in Washington, D.C., and I think a lot of people, if they saw the title of that song, they would freak out, right? And they would say, this is a song calling for the deaths of journalists. But, I'm not from D.C., I'm from Wisconsin originally, and I think the Let the Media Die is something you would hear from people if you sort of sidled up to a bar in rural America and you talk to average people. And the song is really challenging a kind of, I think, populist, bipartisan disgust with what people see in the press. Is that an accurate way to describe what you're talking about there?
I think probably so. I if I understand you correctly, but I will say that my whole adventure through writing all these songs was not just thought out and like, okay, I think I could come up with something a little better than Let the Media Die. I was not on any kind of writing thing that said, I need something that won't offend anybody. The fact that I wasn't worried about offending anybody made all this work. So that just happened to work out to say Let the Media Die. But when I say that, it's like,
give it a break.
Listen, a cymbal on a drum set will die. At some point or another, it dies down. The word die means to like squelch. I let the media squelch. That just didn't work for me, but Let the Media Die did. But what I mean, I'm not calling for anybody to die, of course. I'm not calling for anything other than just the fact that the noise of all that we're hearing right now should calm down. And I think it can calm down for anybody at any time if they just said, you know what, I'm going to quit listening to old Don Lemon. You know, click, you idiot, click. You know, I mean, you know, I'm just saying that it just needs to stop for a minute to gather your thoughts and go outside and feel some sunshine and just be a human again, because we are all getting beat up left and right, and make no bones about it. I have friends that are Democratic and liberals or whatever. I am against radicalism, whether it's this side or that side. Anything super radical and based on violence is what I'm against. I love all the people that are just peaceful, use our system to determine what's happening. Let's all vote. We all get a vote. But to go and beat people on the head or intimidate people leaving the RNC, you know, that's just not good.
Right, and I'm curious also the song. You say this whole album came together really quickly, and that's what I see, a really interesting song. How has the pandemic and sort of the conditions of the pandemic, where we're all kind of stuck to our property and spending more time inside and with our families and less time maybe at bars or restaurants, how has that impacted your creative process, and how did that impact the album itself?
Well, you wrote the album, so it's definitely your question, but
well,
tremendous input or impact.
It's been a great impact for us. We have found who we are through this pandemic. The silver lining for us is that we found that it is imperative for us to be who we are right now more than ever. And it's always good for everybody to be who they are. If people are going to define their love of our music by who we vote for and say, oh, you're voting for Donald Trump, then I hate your music. And we get that now. People who have loved us for years, and I could show you example after example of these bigoted people who bought our merch and all of that kind of stuff, but now have nothing to do with us and actually are very aggressive towards us. So we found that through the whole pandemic thing that we can come out here to our studio and turn Facebook on or YouTube and play our show for 2 hours. We did 43 shows in a row, and we called it the Hibernation Tour. And from that, we had an album come out called Fellow Man, and that CD was out, but only for about a month until we started the riots and the George Floyd thing and whatever, and that ratcheted things up to a whole nother level of suspicion for me, you know, and for Savana. We were like, what's going on here? Is this just the next phase of confusion that we're supposed to have? We see through all of it. Our friends who are on the left are still just, they don't even believe that there are riots in the streets. They think something different.
It's 99% peaceful
99%
protest.
I guess they think that it's all coming from a Hollywood film lot and whatever. We had somebody recently just say, I mean, you know, hey, I'm not out there. I don't know what's going on. Well, unless they're doing it in Hollywood and making that, which I guess it could happen, but from what I understand, it's really happening. People are really like getting hurt and dying from people going nuts over their anger. And from what I understand, it's just people enjoying the fact that they can go out and cause havoc. It's exhilarating to them. And I just think it's childish stuff going on, but there are a lot of people that don't believe it's even happening. And it's like,
so the inspiration is plentiful.
The inspiration is plentiful. I mean, you could be like growing Jack in a beanstalk here with the fertile ground for songwriting right now is unbelievable. And it would be very hard for me to write a song that's not relative to the times. You know, prior to this, I could write a song about anything, and it's just a song. You write a song about supporting the negative, get some growth out of that, just like we're talking to you today. But if we just sang like a song that we have called Cabin on the Hill, it's just a little fun song that you would tap your toe to and you would be uninterested in us. But
it feels fantastic also to sing what you believe and about what's happening right now. I mean, it's
no different than Neil Young when he wrote, Ohio.
Right.
I'm not claiming that our songs are as good as that by any stretch of the imagination, but we are in fertile times right now, and so was he. So there is no riding his coattails. It is strictly my time, Savannah's time. We are here for a reason, and whether people oppose us or not, we're passionate people about what we believe, and musicians should be passionate. And if you're waiting for passion to hit you, you're asleep right now, because right now you just gotta have the courage to come out and say what you think. And I believe that liberal musicians don't have his fertile ground right now because they've been bashing him for 4 years. But like right now, being a conservative musician, it's Jack and the Beanstalk time. Our stuff is just blowing up because it's like, what? And like, how dare you support the president? So people want to talk about these two rednecks living in a bubble is what we get a lot. We're rednecks living in a bubble because we believe in this possibly the greatest president of all time. And I know I'll get slammed over that because I know that my people who don't like us anymore are going to see this, but that's fine. We're on this show and you're not. But it's just, you know what I'm saying? It's just real. We support somebody that I think is going to be on the right side of history. He's not what they say he is. It's all crap. He's a good person.
And it's like, hey, we may be alienating some, but I know that at least 50% of the people out there probably are thinking the same way we do because they elected Donald Trump.
They're just scared to say it.
They're scared to say it. So I'm okay with those odds, to put my music out there and hope. I believe that those 50% or more of people will actually support us because of what we're doing, because it really does take a little bit of guts to come out in an industry that is so dominated by the liberals. So, we're willing to take a chance on it to stand up for what we believe.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I asked another artist in the kind of Americana orbit a couple months ago why it is that, because you guys are so right, this is very fertile time. It's very fertile ground for political art, whether it's music or anything else. And I asked why this sort of generation of folk Americana artists, there aren't a lot of good protest songs anymore. And I think you guys both touched on that. And it stems from an unwillingness to engage honestly with so many issues that we're confronting right now.
You have to dance with fear, and you have to deal with fear. But, fear, that's the only thing there's nothing to fear but fear itself, because ultimately when you believe that you're on the right side of truth, then you're passionate about it. And if somebody's going to be voting for the other people and they are as passionate as we are, I support them in that. Go for it. Go out there. But I don't know.
Christian people, I believe that we're all made, perfectly. So we all have a purpose in life. So why should we suppress ourselves? Why should we try to cover up who we are? My only regret is not being who I was for the last 11 years, but I grew up also in a conservative family, and I was always taught, don't talk politics and religion. Well, I didn't. I took that advice, but now at my age and with everything going on, I'm rethinking that whole statement. I really don't agree with it anymore. I think you should talk politics and religion. I just believe that people should be more tolerant to allow others to have an opinion and have dialogue out there and be kind-hearted with it, and stop attacking people for their beliefs. Just, I feel like I'm dealing with like our kids sometimes when I'm talking to some of these people.
Well, and I wanted to ask, in the statement that you guys passed along, you mentioned that you've had conversations with people in the industry who've worked with you before and don't want to touch your stuff anymore. What have some of those conversations been like?
very short. You know, I mean, it's like, nope. We went back to people who worked our previous 2 records, and you know,
some people didn't respond at all.
Some didn't respond at all, and others just, you know, just, I don't know whether they just looked at the titles of it. But then even if you look at the titles, the only one on there, as we said, was Let the Media Die. And you would think, well, okay, well, oh, wow. You know, but you have to listen to the music to really understand. It's like judging a book by its cover. You can't do that really unless you're Kreskin and you're some psychic person that can do that. But ultimately, our music is still worth promoting. And I think that anybody, no matter who they are, if they could professionally separate themselves from their political agendas or their leanings and accept the money that we were going to pay to them or whatever. We happen to find a person who just is doing a fantastic job for us. And it turns out that maybe he's conservative. I don't know, but I would think so. But he's really gone all out for us. And that's the kind of person we wanted. I just think that when somebody doesn't do something for you, I take that as a red flag, and it's all fine. It's like, I'm going to move on. Thank you for telling me the truth up front. I don't know why people didn't want to touch this other than the fact that they just don't want us to have success with it. And
I think it's just fear of what other people are going to think of them.
Sure.
But I will say, hey, kudos to Buddy Miller and Jim Lauderdale. They did play our song on, it wasn't That's What I See, but it was one of our songs from the album on their show, the Buddy and Jim show on Sirius.
It's a damn good show. That's great.
It's awesome.
I
And
love
those people are very tolerant. I'm sure that they're probably polarized with us more than likely. But the fact of it is they are a prime example of people who are able to have tolerance. And there's a lot of them out there. I have a ton of liberal friends who are very understanding and whatnot. They aren't judgmental on us. I'm always going to go back to the fact that it's the radical person, whether it's right or left, the radical minded person that wants to shut you down and cancel you out because of the way you think.
It's a shame, because this is just good music, no matter what side you're on. And these people are dictating what the public is going to get to hear, and that's just not right. It's good enough to be played on the radio, and it should be played. And I challenge any DJ to go against the grain and just play it and just see what happens. They might be surprised. They might actually gain some listeners by it because, like I said, at least half the country does think like we do, even though they may not be saying it out loud.
Yeah, and right, absolutely. And when you think about a channel like Outlaw Country, and you think about the type of people who are listening to that and who love the work of Buddy and Jim and Steve Earle and Elizabeth Cook, they're not politically in one basket. And I think that certainly they would appreciate some art that comes from a different place. And I imagine that among all of the responses you've gotten that are negative, you've also gotten some positive responses as well.
Tons.
Sure,
and I that's the thing, is that the negative seems to be easier to talk about because to us it's amazing that somebody could be hating on us that much for just being musicians and writing songs and saying, hey, I think I might vote for Donald Trump over this guy here who can't complete a sentence. I mean, it's a no-brainer to us, okay? And I'm not cutting him down. It's just, I think he's past his prime. I look forward to the debates if they let him do it. I know that he says he wants to, but I doubt it's up to him. All I'm saying is that no matter what, there is no convincing me anymore that he's the right man for the job. I mean, it's just impossible to fathom that. And I think that the choice is clear. And even if you have a problem with who Donald Trump is personality-wise, you cannot deny what he did when people say, Anthony, Savannah, what about Donald Trump made you so passionate about him? And I will say easily, the economy helped us feed our family when we went through 8 years of tolerating their person, who we go off of what the public is spending and how they're willing to open their pocketbooks up for art, because we are not essential workers, you see. We are people who are like, hey, I think I'd like to listen to some music tonight. Oh, well, you know, we don't have but $20 left. Well, they're not going to go spend it on throwing it in a tip jar. But since Donald Trump's been in there, we can honestly say, I don't know how the man did it. Most people claim that it's just the, you know, results of what Obama did, but I doubt it. But these people spend a lot of money now, or they did before the COVID thing and whatever. But, you know, they spend money more because they're making more money. The economy was booming. And I believe it's going to get back to that if he's reelected.
Interesting.
I don't even know if that makes sense.
But back to the positive comments, there have been many, and I want to say that we are certainly going to be highlighting some of those comments. Anthony had a little section called Hater of the Day for a while that we were posting like some of the really hateful comments, because we were calling people out on how they're treating us, because it's wrong. And so, you know, we wanted people to know if they're going to do that, then we will publicly show everybody and see what they think about it. But we're also going to have Lover of the Day, and we're going to post some of the positive comments, because there are many. And
we have actually done that, but it does not get the traction that the Hater of the Day got. I mean, the Hater of the Day just was, I could go and post a Hater of the Day here after we finish. Somebody's probably saying something hateful to us right now, and I could go do it. But I usually leave it up on my Facebook page for about no more than 24 hours, because like the trash, it starts to stink real bad, and we want to get rid of the energy. But I do think that it's interesting to call people out, and there is some good human interest on this story. Last night somebody said something very derogatory towards us, and we answered this person in a nice way, and it went back and forth, and all of a sudden we worked it out, and all was good, you know.
And that's not the first time. We've had multiple situations where that has happened, and we're just like, hey, we're not coming from a place of anger at all, you know. We're just trying to just be who we are, you know. So we would like it if you would try to just accept us for who we are. So we're not trying to change your mind.
Also, we have actually changed a few people's mind by coming out in favor of Donald Trump. There have been several people who have changed their mind and are going to vote for Donald Trump. I won't mention their names, but there's 2 or 3 very liberal musicians who went back and listened to his the inaugural speech that he did back in 2016, or the one in 2018, or they went back and listened to his speeches, fully listened, not just what they got from CNN or MSNBC. And they are changed people. They finally got to hear the man speak, and they did know. They no longer could look at him the way that they were. And they told us, hey, thank you. We've changed our mind.
And we're learning from them, you know, because by listening to them, they're saying, hey, you know, CNN or whoever is cutting up these words to make it to where he sounds like an awful person, you know, and I can see how people would hate him when they do that, you know. So I think it's just a lot of misinformation out there, and unfortunately most people are not really computer savvy enough to be like internet detectives and try to figure out who's telling the truth or the whole story.
But we're just 2 rednecks in a bubble over here, you know, voting for Donald Trump, just on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, they love to say wrong side of history. One question I have is, you guys sing these really beautiful, tight harmonies. How did you discover that you could do that? When was it? When you first met? When did you guys realize that you had this? When you come together and you sing together and make music together, that it was really special?
Right away, when I was working at the studio where Savana was managing the studio in Nashville, and she heard my music, and then she was also an artist and was wanting to cut one of the songs that I had. And so I was teaching her the song. And when her voice sang with me, singing the song I wanted her to sing, I thought, oh, wow, this is a light bulb went off to me. I was thinking, this is the person I need to be with forever. The music that we had, that we were making, just the harmonic sounds were so beautiful. I thought, well, I don't know how I could not have this. So it was just a pursuit of being together from that very first minute that we sang together. Aside from her being a beautiful woman and all that, her harmony with me seriously made my songs make sense. And I've said it many times, but it is the absolute truth. My career, as great as it may have been, riding the coattails of Neil Young and Steve Winwood and Dwight Yoakam, that's a lovely ride on their coattails. But I tell you what, when we got together, I jumped off their coattails and just came on over, and we started a career. And as small as it may be, it's been the most satisfying and enjoyable moments that I will look back on. And if I can only take my memory from a certain period of time to the next dimension, it would be the memories with Savana. It's been just explosive and beautiful.
Well, and I will say, I will add to that, you know, as much as I love harmony, I always grew up just loving harmony, and I would sing along to the radio. I would typically just sing just a little couple of notes before, you know, above the lead, and I would just kind of follow that. Anthony's the king of harmony. I mean, if you look at his history of all the records he's been on, it is just, it will blow your mind, all the big stars that he's been on their records singing harmony for. So I would say I learned a lot about my harmony from him. You know, I was a lot more safe with my harmony. He has really pushed me to, first of all, just sing whatever I'm thinking. Like these songs in particular, he would write them and record them, and then he would just like say, hey, come out here and sing this. And I might get to hear it like one time, and then I'm singing the harmony parts on these songs. But I think by his, either whatever I did naturally without really having any kind of thought about what I was doing, that's always an interesting thing, even though you want to discredit it and go back and practice something more. A lot of times what you think first in your head is the right way to go. If it's not, you can ask him and he will tell you the right way, because he usually knows the harmonies. You know, he's a master at it. He really is. So, I mean, I yield to him if there's ever any doubt. I mean, he did all the instruments on all of this. So,
would you like to hear a note?
Of course.
Well, let me try to explain my feelings in a song. It's the only way that I ever move my wagon along. And I got my head just above the fray. I wanted the price I hope I never have to pay. One more verse.
Please.
I've never seen times such as these, and living like I was everybody I was trying to please. Freaking out to see this side of me, and I'm leaving myself wide open because I want you to see the real me. Oh, I want you to see the real me. Well, now let me try to explain my feelings in a song.
oh, you gotta skip that bridge.
Yeah, we just skipped the bridge. We gotta stop.
That
But
was
it's fun to
beautiful.
sing together, you know. It just that is energizing to us, and we did our hibernation tour 43 shows in a row because we enjoyed it. We got to have a beer together and put our kids to bed, and it was amazing. They stayed asleep all night. We had the baby monitor out here. And
I never get to come out here. I rarely do. It's like come out here for 5 minutes to put a vocal on a song, and then I have to go back in. So it really kind of forced us to spend some time together in this space, you know, so it's really nice. I mean, the pandemic for us, I mean, I know it's been devastating to a lot of people, and I am concerned about our future, of course, because apparently if you're self-employed, the unemployment doesn't apply to you or something. I'm not sure. We're working on that, but, you know, it has allowed us to just stay home with our children and build a stronger relationship with them and teach them our core values, which is so important to us. And then spend some time, you know, in our studio playing music and recording, because we've been out playing shows for the past 11 years, just nonstop. So it's been a nice break for us in that regard to get off of the road for a while. But I do have hopes that we'll be able to get back out there. And I know that there's conservative venues out there. They just have to find us, because it's hard to know.
You're playing a fundraiser coming up, right, in Florida?
Yeah, we are. It's the Republican Victory Dinner. It's for Osceola County's Republican Executive Committee. So there'll be several hundred people there. I think we've got some, you know, DeSantis is probably going to be there, and some of Trump's campaign people. So we're excited about it.
Great.
Let them hear some ruffled feathers.
Right. Well, the album is available wherever albums are sold, but you can get it on sugarcanejane.com. You can stream it. It's everywhere. The single is That's What I See. You can watch the music video on YouTube. You can watch it over on the Federalist. Thank you guys both so much for your time today. This has been a lovely conversation.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah. God bless you guys.
God bless you.
Thank you.